Okay, dear people, today I'd like to tell you something about some of the costs which will be completely different for you than in Germany. I already sent out my newsletter yesterday and talked about various cost points. By the way, if you'd like to receive my irregular newsletter, please just send an email to info@mediterranean-pias.com. The address is shown again below this video. Send me an email, please. You're on the newsletter mailing list. So it's about the comparison between Hungarian and German energy. And if you're emigrating to Hungary, you have to keep in mind that German households pay 4.5 times as much for electricity and 5 times as much for gas as Hungarian households. That's what the responsible government representative said. Silak Nemet said this on his Facebook page, and that's the one interesting thing that's amazing because you obviously need the most costs or the largest cost blocks you have, I think, for housing and then for energy. And if you have a huge difference between 4.5 times, then it definitely pays off, but it gets even more interesting. And that includes those who, when you say now, many of you are waiting there in Germany saying, when will things get better? We're waiting because things are getting better. But Germany is the strongest, largest economy in Europe to date, but its energy policy has been driven to ruin. They've shut down the nuclear power plants. That means there are no alternatives there either. They've pushed wind power, they've pushed solar energy, but that's not at all reliable and can't replace everything. They also blew up some nuclear power plant, a large one here in Germany, and the cooling towers. So in the long, medium, or longer term, there's absolutely no chance of improvement. That's why it's really good to come to terms with it and then draw the appropriate conclusions. So, as I said, this minister has been on a little tour of Europe, and it's also interesting. Romanians pay 2.5 times more for electricity than in Hungary, and Slovak families pay almost 2.5 times the Hungarian gas price, and so on and so forth. So everywhere, actually in all of Europe, Hungary is the cheapest when it comes to electricity and gas. And how did it do that? Well, it's subsidized, of course, but how can Hungary do that for most people? So you practically have a limit, which is concentrated by the state, and that's why Hungarian electricity and gas prices are so cheap. But if you go over that, you have to pay the normal market prices, but for a normal household, that's absolutely sufficient. So you can really get through the winter with gas. You can get by with electricity and gas. So if you don't do anything special, it's absolutely fine. And the Hungarian government can ensure this subsidy by expanding, developing, and expanding the FACTS negative 2 nuclear power plant with the help of the Russians, in cooperation with the Russians, and thus getting very cheap energy, namely nuclear energy. But it's good and even very environmentally friendly. So that's practically the guarantee that it will stay that way in the future because it's a long-term cooperation. And as I said, the PACS 2 nuclear power plant is currently being expanded. And so everything's fine. Yes, Czech energy prices are 4 times higher than those in Hungary. So anyone considering emigrating to other European countries should really consider this and calculate it before considering this main cost block, because it makes a big difference, as I said. So with that in mind, like the video, subscribe to the channel all about Hungary and related topics, and send me an email if you want to be included in the newsletter. See you then. Take care. Bye bye.